Hello everyone, welcome to the Happy Life podcast. Before we begin, for those of you who are new to this podcast, this is a place where I mainly share two key content areas: personal financial management skills and the life experiences I have accumulated. Once again, welcome everyone. And now, let's get started with today's topic. First, I would like to inform you that today's episode will not be very long. The story I will share with you is just a small one, however, I believe it will bring a lot of value to you, just as it has brought a lot of value to me. This story happened quite a long time ago when I was still in Australia, and if any of you have been to Australia, you know that winter there is quite cold. Actually, compared to Europe, winter in Australia is not too cold, but due to the way houses are built in Australia, with little focus on insulation and heating equipment, the feeling when winter comes in Australia is quite cold. And a typical example of such poor house construction is that bathrooms often do not have heaters, so after taking a bath, if we step out of the tub and then dry ourselves, it will be very cold and easy to catch a cold. Therefore, I gradually developed a habit of installing a towel rack right next to the bathtub, and on that rack, I would hang clothes so that right after bathing, while the water was draining from the tub, I could dry myself, put on warm clothes, and then step out of the tub area. That time, I had just moved to a new house, and there was no towel rack available in the bathroom, so I had to go out and buy another towel rack to install, and the type of rack I chose to buy was the kind that could either be drilled into the wall as usual or had an adhesive option for sticking to the wall. The adhesive option had double-sided tape on the back, which was quite strong. When installing, we just needed to peel off the tape and stick it to the wall, which was simple and time-saving. However, after a few days, although it was quite good tape, it was still just tape. With the weight of a towel and clothes, over time, it began to loosen, and after a few weeks, the entire rack fell down. When it fell, due to laziness, I again chose the simple way by cutting another piece of tape and sticking it back up. This would last a few days or, if lucky, a few weeks before the rack fell again. This cycle continued for several months. Each time it fell, I would spend about 5 to 10 minutes reattaching it. Sometimes, it fell while I was bathing, causing both my towel and clothes to get wet. In short, because of a bit of laziness, I chose the shortcut and then had to endure its inconvenience for a long time. Until a long time later, when I couldn't stand it anymore, I decided to go to the store to buy screws, and then took out the drill and worked hard for about 1 to 2 hours to fix the towel rack firmly. Since then, all the issues I had before were completely resolved. There was no longer a situation where it fell while I was bathing, and no more times where I had to sit and cut pieces of tape to reattach the rack. The story is just that simple. The lesson learned is not profound. It was because of laziness that I chose the shortcut. Instead of spending about 2 hours to fix it securely from the beginning, I opted to save time by using adhesive tape, which only took me about 5 to 10 minutes instead of 2 hours. However, in the end, over a long period, I had to suffer from that solution and repeatedly reattached the towel rack. In total, the time I spent reattaching it probably exceeded the time it would have taken to drill and fix it securely from the start. More importantly, I wouldn't have had to endure the inconvenience of it repeatedly falling over such a long time. From this simple story, thinking a bit further, I realize that in our lives, there are many stories like the towel rack. Another example is when I was talking to a friend of mine who owns a business. He complained to me that his current business operations were not very effective because he had been using an old process for a long time. He himself saw that this process had many shortcomings. However, just like the towel rack story, he hesitated to make changes for several reasons. He was afraid that employees would quit with the new process, he was worried about having to invest in new equipment, and he had other concerns. As a result, he continued using the old process with many shortcomings, enduring the situation. When he asked for my advice on how to improve this situation, I shared with him the towel rack story that I just told you. I told him that there was no other way but to make a decisive change once and for all. After that, I rolled up my sleeves and helped him set up new processes, replace some equipment, and even replace some unsuitable personnel to adapt to the new process. As expected, just like the towel rack, once the new process was running smoothly, the long-standing headaches and issues were resolved, and my friend no longer had to endure those problems. The third story is a family story. For some sensitive reasons, I will not recount this story specifically, but I will speak in general terms because this is a story that I believe many of us have encountered. Look around us, and you will see many families who know there is a problem, whether it is a problem of emotions, finances, or some other issue, but both sides hesitate to bring it up. We fear confrontation and that speaking up will lead to arguments, so the problem remains year after year. Occasionally, it flares up into arguments, like the towel rack falling down occasionally. Instead of sitting down to address the core issue thoroughly, we choose a makeshift solution to get by, much like how I use tape to temporarily fix the towel rack. Consequently, the problem remains, and it falls again from time to time, continuing the cycle. I believe everyone has experienced similar situations, whether at work, in family relationships, or even in friendships. In these cases, many times we choose the shortcut solution, perhaps thinking it will save time or because we fear confrontation in dealing with uncomfortable issues, or simply because we are lazy. However, through the examples I have shared with you today, when we reflect on them, we see that choosing the shortcut will always cost us more time and, more importantly, make us more tired and face more problems. Instead, if we grit our teeth and endure a bit of hardship to resolve it thoroughly, we will avoid a long period of repeatedly dealing with that problem. And that is the small but very valuable lesson that I have concluded for myself. Now, whenever I face a problem, I usually try to understand the root cause and address it thoroughly, enduring the hardship once so that I don't have to deal with it anymore. In reality, talking about it here seems very simple, but in practice, overcoming the comfort of choosing the shortcut, overcoming the avoidance of sensitive issues to take the path that requires more effort, more time, and in many cases, more money, is much harder than just talking about it here. However, I hope that through the small stories I shared with you today, the lesson will be enough to help us gradually develop the habit of choosing to resolve everything thoroughly instead of taking shortcuts and then having to endure long-term consequences. I'll conclude my sharing for today's episode here. If you find this content helpful, please share it with your friends and family. Additionally, as usual, because YouTube's algorithm prioritizes videos with more likes, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button to help our podcast reach more people. Thank you for your support, and I wish you all a peaceful evening.